Hello. In another lecture, we took an in-depth look at problem solving. Today, we are going to study about creativity. This is an important concept in problem solving. As cognitive psychologist Matlin puts it, creativity, like problem solving, involves moving from an initial state to a goal state. The study of creativity is important at the individual and societal level. At the individual level, being creative can help solve problems in one's daily life and work life. At the societal level, new inventions, scientific advances, the outcomes of creativity can improve quality of life and increase well-being. Interestingly, the study of creativity was neglected within psychology for a long period of time. One of the hurdles was that the concept of creativity was always associated with the mystical. For example, people spoke of being inspired by muses. Muse refers to a person or imaginary being that gives ideas and helps in the creative process. This made the study of creativity vague and not scientific. The second hurdle is that there are many methods to measure creativity and a lack of consensus on which is the most appropriate. If you were asked to make a list of creative individuals, who would feature in that list? Does the list only include names of artists? If it does, then the list is not incorrect, but it is definitely lacking. We tend to equate creativity with artists, but creativity is not bound to a particular domain. Creativity has been defined by Sternberg as producing something that is novel or original and worthwhile. Let us understand some of the key words in this definition. The definition mentions producing something. In the context of creativity, something can refer to a wide range of things: a theory, invention, piece of art or music, a story, something edible like food, a dance, etc. I am sure now you understand why I mentioned that creativity is not bound to a particular domain. Creativity also demands novelty and utility. The work produced should be original or unique and new. It should also be useful, appropriate, and meeting some task constraints. Thus, to summarize, creativity is a cognitive activity that results in a new or novel way of viewing a problem or situation. The nature of creativity. There are three general observations about creativity. 1. Creativity includes convergent and divergent thinking. Guilford and Torrance were two psychologists who have done pioneering work in the field of creativity. Guilford distinguished between two types of thinking: convergent and divergent. Convergent thinking involves using previous knowledge and logic to integrate information in order to arrive at a single correct answer. Convergent thinking has been likened to putting together a jigsaw puzzle. There are different pieces which need to be arranged in a specific pattern in order to complete the picture. For instance, academic exams where there is one right answer typically requires convergent thinking. This type of thinking is best suited for problems that are routine or conventional and do not need a creative solution. Many of the tests used to measure creativity focus on divergent thinking. Divergent thinking has at times been used as a synonym for creativity. However, creativity includes more. This type of thinking requires the individual to come up with multiple possible solutions to a problem. Typically, in this form of thinking, an individual begins with a point and then comes up with many different divergent ideas based on that point. For example, giving children some blocks and asking them to rearrange them into many different things as they can will showcase their divergent thinking ability. On the other hand, if there is a picture given to them and they are asked to arrange the blocks to resemble the picture, that will require convergent thinking. 2. Creativity is associated with both brain areas. Despite what is said in popular media, creativity is not confined to the right hemisphere alone. It is a complex process and associated with areas in both the right and left hemispheres of the brain. The prefrontal area of the brain is active during creativity, and other regions of the brain have also been identified as being important. 3. Creativity and attention states. It is seen that creative people show flexibility in the type of attention they use while solving a problem. Sometimes creativity can occur when people are consciously focusing on the task, especially when the task is well defined and not ambiguous. On the other hand, when the task is ill defined, there is a high level of ambiguity, defocused attention might be better. Views on creativity. Psychologists have been trying to answer the question, what factors produce creativity? The various approaches to the study of behavior have tackled this question differently. We will very briefly be reviewing two of them. Cognitive approach. This approach tries to understand mental representations and processes involved in creative thought. The mental processes include retrieval of information from memory, association, synthesis, transformation, and categorical reduction, which refers to mentally designating objects to basic categories. The cognitive approach highlighted the fact that creativity is a part of our daily life tasks, such as understanding novel concepts or telling a joke. Perkins distinguished between mundane or everyday creativity, examples of which I just mentioned, and exceptional creativity, something that results in a new and dramatic thing. According to him, mundane creativity was the product of prior knowledge and information being used to solve a problem. He believed that exceptional creativity lies in Klondike spaces. Klondike is an area in Canada where miners went to hunt for gold. Mining for gold is a very difficult task, as they did not know where to start their search. Skilled miners can use their experience and knowledge of the land to find gold, which a novice miner will find hard. Perkins used this as an analogy. He believed that people like inventors, scientists have a Klondike map which guides them. This is an internal map which helps them navigate to find the solution. Perkins believed that exceptional creativity occurs when there is out-of-the-box thinking. This can happen only when we are able to break away from our regular and conventional ways of thinking. Confluence theory of creativity. According to another approach for creativity, multiple individual and environmental components must converge. The confluence of 6 distinct resources plays a role in creativity. These, according to Lubert, are intellectual ability. Intelligence skills are important. This helps by allowing individuals to look at problems in a novel way and break away from conventional thinking. Intellectual ability includes the ability to recognize which ideas are worth pursuing and how to persuade others. Knowledge. In order to be creative, an individual must have knowledge about it. Someone who is knowledgeable or an expert is capable of making connections that are not apparent to a novice, and this helps reformulate their thinking and be creative. Thinking styles. A preference for thinking in novel ways and an ability to see the big picture, to think globally as well as locally. Personality. Some of the personality factors creative individuals exhibit are: they tend to take on sensible risks, they tolerate ambiguity, and they have the willingness to overcome obstacles. Intrinsic motivation. Creative individuals love what they do and work for the pleasure they get from doing so. Individuals who are truly creative will work because they love what they do and not for some external reward. Confluence approach. Creativity is the result of the confluence of these factors. Environment. It is imperative that there exists an environment that is supportive and helps nurture creativity. The absence of it will act as an obstacle for creative individuals to showcase their ability. Looking at this list of factors, you might have noticed that none of these factors are very unique or extraordinary. But the confluence of these is what results into something truly creative. Sternberg and Lubert put forth another theory known as the investment theory of creativity, which is a confluence theory. Creative people are said to buy low and sell high. Buying low refers to pursuing ideas that are uncommon, but they see potential in it. For instance, Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, came up with the idea for the social network at a time when it was not popular. He dropped out of Harvard University to work on it as he believed in its potential. Creative people continue to work on these unconventional ideas even though their contemporaries undervalue it. After the initial resistance, when the idea is accepted by others and valued, they sell high. The social networking site co-created by Zuckerberg continues to be highly successful and has earned him huge profits. Creative people do not sit back on their success. Rather, they are motivated to look for other hidden ideas with potential. Hence, it is said that creative people exert influence by always staying ahead of the rest. Systems approach. Another view taken to the study of creativity is that it is not solely the result of psychological event, but influenced by cultural and social events. Psychologists believed that creativity occurs at the intersection or meeting point of the individual, social, and cultural factors. Like renowned psychologist Csikszentmihalyi explained, how a spark is necessary to light a fire, but the absence of air and tinder or wood, there will be no flame. Likewise, according to him, for creativity, the individual must interact with two aspects of the environment, the cultural or symbolic aspect known as the domain and the social aspect known as field. In this theory, the individual interacts with the domain and creates something which changes the domain. This change in the domain must then be accepted by the field as being creative and worthy of being included in the domain. However, most of the creative ideas are forgotten. The role of the field is important to ensure that this does not occur. The field has been described as the gatekeepers, like teachers, critics, journal editors, etc., who decide what belongs in the domain and what does not. Thus, the field is interacting with the domain and decides whether the idea is worth assimilating into the domain. For example, a fashion designer might create a very unique way of draping a sari. The editors of an influential fashion magazine think it is worthy of being featured in their magazine. Based on the endorsement of a small group of fashion magazines, the new way of draping the sari is accepted and adopted by people. Before we continue, let us pause and try to answer whether the statements are true or false. 1. Creativity is associated only with the right hemisphere of the brain. 2. Intrinsic motivation is one of the resources for creativity according to the confluence theory. 3. Creativity is defined as something that is novel or worthwhile. 4. According to the systems approach, the individual must accept an idea to be worthy of being included in the domain. Answers: 1 is false. Creativity is associated with both brain hemispheres and also other brain areas. 2 is true. 3 is false. Creativity requires both novelty and utility. 4 is false. The field must accept the idea to be worthy, not the individual. The creative process. Csikszentmihalyi has outlined 5 steps in the creative process. We will now take a look at it. Preparation. This involves immersing oneself in the problem area or area of interest. Often, these individuals are preparing for a long time. This could include years of education and interest from childhood in the field. This preparation helps arouse curiosity in the individual. Second, incubation. This is a stage when the individual is thinking about the issue without consciously being aware of it. This period is thought to allow the individual to recover from the fatigue of constantly thinking of the problem. And instead of working on the problem, this period is thought to allow the individual to recover from the fatigue of constantly thinking of the problem and instead work on the problem in the background or unconsciously. Third, insight. This is the famous aha or eureka moment, when the individual is able to put together the pieces of the puzzle into a complete picture. It is sometimes referred to as the light bulb moment, where there is a rush of excitement as the parts that are important come together and those that are not are discarded, leading to a breakthrough. Evaluation. After the euphoria of the insight phase, this phase involves the verification of the idea. It is important to assess whether the idea is correct and worth pursuing further. And finally, elaboration. This is the final stage and involves translating the idea or insight into reality. Teaching creativity. What do you think? Can creativity be taught? The answer to this question depends on how creativity is defined. It is believed that individuals can be taught to be more flexible in their thinking, be critical while looking at scientific and philosophical issues, solve puzzles creatively. All this contributes to creativity. But through training alone, an individual may not be transformed into someone like an Einstein or Picasso. Some of the ways in which creativity can be enhanced are developing a knowledge base. People who are considered to be creative are well versed in their area and also work unusually hard. The rich knowledge is a storehouse of information that allows them to be creative. The quote by psychologist Solso brilliantly highlights the importance of knowledge when he said, "The apple that fell on Newton's head and inspired him to develop a general theory of gravity struck an object filled with information." Searching for analogies. In the lecture on problem solving, we have studied the role of an analogy. Studies indicate that people are not very good at identifying when a new problem is similar to one they have solved. By making people believe that sometimes new problems can be solved like ones they encountered in the past, they are more likely to be successful. Creating an environment. Along with individual characteristics, creativity is influenced by the environment. Often, individuals tend to feel inhibited to share their ideas due to fear of being judged or embarrassed. However, an atmosphere that encourages innovation, provides the necessary resources, helps nurture creativity. An unfavorable environment will be an obstacle to creativity despite the talent of the individual. With this, we have come to the end of today's lecture. We learned about the definition and nature of creativity. We also looked at a few of the approaches that are taken to study creativity. The cognitive approach emphasized the role of mental processes in creativity, while the confluence approach takes a view that several factors have to converge in the process of creativity. According to the systems approach, creativity lies at the intersection of the creator, the domain, and the field. Though creativity might seem like it is a magical process, it isn't. Psychologists have outlined 5 stages, namely preparation, incubation, insight, evaluation, and elaboration. And finally, we saw that there are some ways in which creativity can be taught or enhanced. I do hope you found this lecture to be interesting. Thank you.